What's going on, Conquistadors? It is Scotty the Chunky Spaniard, and welcome back to Round Like Me, the channel where we talk about a lot of well-rounded things. And today's thing? Well, it's Tuesday. So that means it's time for a Tunes on a Tuesday! We are going to continue our Year of the Dog little segment from January. But before we get into that, there's something that we need to talk about that is super serious. And I'm sure you can tell by my tone, it's not actually that serious. But to me, it's kind of this plague on music. Since today is our Tunes on a Tuesday, it's this plague on music. And can we just stop the remixes? Like, stop the remixes. That's what I need to have a shirt that says stop the remixes. Because has there ever been a song that's actually better with the remix? I'm sure there are some people that love to go in the club that are like, no, that track is straight fire, yo, it's lit, as the youngsters would say. But like, for real, has there ever been a remix that's better than the original? One of the biggest offenders right now is one of my favorite current artists, Ed Sheeran. How many versions of Perfect has he released? That's not even the best track on the album. And he's released, okay, one more side note, Beyonce, don't need you on every song. Don't need you with every single artist. I understand, the world thinks that you're talented, but I haven't liked Beyonce since, like, maybe Single Ladies was okay, but Destiny's Child. And even then, I wasn't that big of a fan. Give me TLC over Destiny's Child, any day. So Beyonce, just stop. Stop it, Beyonce. Don't need you on every song. You're on Eminem's new album. You're with Ed Sheeran on this new Perfect remix. And then Ed Sheeran, back to Ed Sheeran. Then we're going, he's saying he redid, I can't even talk because I'm so frustrated. So Ed, you have Perfect on the original album. Then you release it acoustic because you know it's going on every single playlist and mixtape of every junior high and high schooler that's in love. Can't even talk, still can't talk. Then you bring in Beyonce, who's on everybody's stuff, and then you go and do Perfect with Andrea Bocelli? I don't even understand it. I understand he's a legend as far as vocal performance is concerned, but you acoustic kind of wanted to be hip-hop acoustic, but you're like acoustic, and you throw in a little bit of hip-hop, but you're acoustic. You're not opera, you're not Italian. So stop the remixes. Bruno Mars, another example, just re-released Finesse with Cardi B. Cardi B? I mean, in 4 or 5 years when her career's over, like, she could probably get a good job as someone like a Jane Goodall. She could go out into the woods and just make bird sounds, because that's what her interviews are. Just her making weird freaking sounds. But like, really, Bruno? Did you have to mess with Finesse? I know it's a good, smart business decision to have Cardi B on a track. But really, you have to go and mess with it. Stop with the remixes. Just stop it. No more remixes. Unless it comes with the album already, if you buy the deluxe version because you're a big fan, like I do, I still don't even want the remixes. I don't ever listen to them, because not as good as the original track. If you know of a remix that's better than the original, let me know. I'm not talking about covers that are better than the original. I'm talking about remixes of the same song where they throw in like Steve Aoki or Deadmau5, and it, you know, it's got some dance track beat to it, right? Because straight fire, yo, dab on them haters. But now, time to talk about some bands. Let's talk about some music. It's the Year of the Dog. Last week, we gave a little shout out to Dogstar, Keanu Reeves' band. We talked about Temple of the Dog. One of my favorite, I mean, that is going to be my favorite this month. That I mentioned hands down. But today's honorable mention for our Year of the Dog is a band called Lapdog, not the current Lapdog. There is a current band of Lapdog that sounds a lot like Bad Religion. And I love Bad Religion. Which is also why I love Rise Against, but that's what the current Lapdog sounds like. They sound like Bad Religion. So if you like that punk sound, go check them out. The Lapdog I'm talking about dissolved after their 2003 release. Toad the Wet Sprocket, if you know Toad the Wet Sprocket, All I Want, Walk on the Ocean, two of their biggest hits, probably their two biggest hits, off of the same album, Fear. One of my favorite bands. They dissolved in 1998, the year that I was supposed to go see them in concert. Went and bought tickets. I asked a girl. I was still in college. I asked a girl. I was really nervous. She said yes, she's going to go to the concert. And then one morning I hear on the radio that Toad the Wet Sprocket is breaking up. And if you bought a ticket to their current concert, they would refund you the money. You know how rough that was? I couldn't even recover after that. I had to go tell the girl, like, hey, the concert's canceled. Sorry. And I was so bummed about the band, I didn't even ask her, like, since the concert's canceled, can we go to dinner or coffee or something like that? I was just bummed about the band. And shows you how much I love music. I was so distraught over the band breaking up that I didn't even ask the girl for a follow-up date. I have no clue what happened to her. Maybe she was distraught too, and she started her own band. But after Toad the Wet Sprocket dissolved, basically every member except Glenn Phillips, the main singer, left and started this band called Lapdog. Here are Lapdog's two albums. This one from 2000 and this one from 2003 called Mayfly. This was kind of just self-titled. This is my favorite. So I was listening to this podcast the other day called Labeled. It's the story of Tooth and Nail Records, or stories from Tooth and Nail Records. And they were talking to the lead singer of Copeland, who's a really, really good, you would call them emo, but a really, really just good alternative band. And they were talking about how your first album is usually your best. Not necessarily your favorite work as the artist, but usually the one that's the most widely accepted and recognized by fans. And that's because bands have so much time, so many years to refine their songs for that first album, that you pour all of this emotion you didn't have before, and you have been able to pick and choose like which songs the fans love and which you love and which ones come out the best arrangements. And then after that first album drops, you're on a timeline for every other album to come out, and you don't have as much time. So this album by Lapdog is my absolute favorite of theirs, and I haven't listened to it in forever. But then Mayfly came out, and I got it because I was a fan of the guys from Toad. It was everybody. It was Tom, Dean, and Randy, guitar, bass, and drums, with another guy that they brought in. And Toad the Wet Sprocket is back together. They're touring every year, and it's freaking awesome. Went and saw them 2 years ago, and they were just as good as when I saw them before they broke up. I didn't end up getting to see them. But that was our honorable mention, Lapdog. You should check them out. They're super good. So, and because there are those two different Lapdogs on iTunes, this is the cover of their first album, and this is the cover of their second one, Mayfly. And now for the headliner of our Year of the Dog, a band called Dog's Eye View. A lot of people have never heard of Dog's Eye View, and that's because they've kind of had this somewhat rocky path, I guess. Their number one song was Everything Falls Apart off their first album. If you grew up in the 90s like me and you remember like alternative and early alternative, Dog follows kind of the same musical path as a lot of artists from the late 90s, the mid to late 90s, where they had featured an acoustic guitar. They had some interesting instrumentation at times, but they would start off acoustic and then bring in the jangly electric guitars. Electric guitars that sounded a lot like the Gin Blossoms. A lot of people copied the Gin Blossoms. And the lyrics were way more poetic. But the guitar riff for their main song, Everything Falls Apart, started off with this kind of like muted, and it went something like this, and then a lot of upstrokes. And so a lot of songs, a lot of artists followed this same kind of pattern. Dog's Eye View's first album was called Happy Nowhere, and I found it years ago after they were popular. I'd heard Everything Falls Apart. Their one single was big on VH1, but this album came out in '95, and I even found the Dog's Eye View sampler. I don't know where the cover for it went, but I don't know why I bought it, just because I think I was a fan. And I went back and started listening to it all this week, and it's the pained guy that may not have the best vocals but is very poetic, and a lot of that 90s was kind of falling back on Bob Dylan's style. A lot of people went into Bob Dylan's style, but Dog's Eye View, their first album, they wrote it all lowercase, so even on iTunes it recognizes it as two different like artists, because their second album they capitalized. But Dog's Eye View, the lead singer was Peter Stewart, and he was found by Adam Duritz of Counting Crows. So you can kind of understand musically where this is falling in between. I mentioned Lapdog, which is Toad the Wet Sprocket, a lot of acoustic sound. Just mentioned Counting Crows, Adam Duritz found Peter Stewart, and the first incarnation of the band after he was found sounded really interesting because they had cello and violin in the lineup. But by the time this album came out, they had left. And it's what a lot of bands did back then, trying to mix up their instrumentation. And the biggest one of all of those, and my favorite, is Dave Matthews Band. You see their vinyl right here for the Gru Grux King. So hard to say, but it was kind of like their tribute after Leroy passed away. But you had Leroy Moore on saxophone, you had Boyd Tinsley on violin, you get this killer bass player in Stefan Lessard, and obviously one of the best drummers ever, Carter Buford, on the drums. And what did Dave Matthews play primarily? Acoustic guitar. And then later on they brought in the electric sound with Tim Reynolds and things like that. But you get a lot of that kind of sound on here, not Dave Matthews Band sound, but a lot of acoustic guitar that goes into jangly electric. They have a really good bass player. Listen to the bass lines on this if you go check out this album. So kind of following that formulaic approach of instrumentation. My other favorite song on this, they released one more single, and it was Small Wonders. And it was really slow and mellow, and it was okay. Wasn't my favorite track off of this. My favorite song off this album is The Prince's Favorite Son. And it's got this cool bluesy guitar riff at the beginning. It starts off kind of mellow, and then it busts into the full drums, and it's got this cool, just guitar riff that draws me in, and it's got a good groove to it. But Dog's Eye View's first album, their second album was called Daisy, capitalized this time, remember. Now this album, Daisy, followed more of the Counting Crows influence. It was way more upbeat, better sound. They had a better mixture on this one of everything. It was way more balanced. It wasn't as folky, Bob Dylan-ish as the first one. And they even threw an accordion on one of the songs, which was a big signature of Counting Crows, especially on their second album, Recovering the Satellites. But Daisy, good album. It's a really good album. I actually like it better than Happy Nowhere. But then Dog's Eye View dissolved, and didn't know what happened to them until I went to a concert at the Sleep Train Amphitheater in Sacramento, and it was this guy named Peter Stewart, Train, in Matchbox 20. It was an outdoor amphitheater. We get up there, I get off work, I pick up 3 friends, and we haul butt up there, and it starts pouring down rain. It's an outdoor amphitheater, it starts pouring down rain. We're thinking they're gonna cancel the show. We just drove 3.5, 4 hours to Sacramento, and now they're gonna cancel the show. But the show went on, and this guy comes out to open the concert. Just him and an acoustic guitar. His name was Peter Stewart. After that, I was like, man, this guy's amazing. He commanded the entire amphitheater. Like, everybody was like, whoa, kind of blown away. And we were just kind of shocked, honestly, that this guy with an acoustic guitar, I hadn't seen Mraz live yet, but could dominate an entire stage and fill it and bring people's attention. And that was Peter Stewart. Now Train went on and Matchbox 20 went on, great show, but Peter Stewart was the lead singer of Dog's Eye View, and I was like, maybe that's why I like this guy so much. So Peter Stewart came out with his own self-titled album called Propeller. The reason this album is important to me, I really like this album, was that I played one of the songs off of this, My Heart in Your Hands, for my wife when I proposed to her. And so this album was special to us. We loved this album, we'd listen to it all the time, and so I proposed to her with My Heart in Your Hands. She said yes, obviously, and the rest is history. Now, Dog's Eye View came out with a newer album in 2006. They're listed under hip-hop online. It's not a hip-hop record, but you can't find it anywhere. It's really, really tough. So, that's it. That was our quick little... It wasn't quick because I went on a little rant about remixes, but stop the remixes and stop Beyonce because she doesn't need to be on everything. And Ed, you don't need 55 different versions of Perfect. If you are going to do future ones with Perfect, here are my suggestions of artists you should have. You should have the Beach Boys with Perfect, okay? You should also have Perfect by Ed Sheeran featuring a cheeseburger from In-N-Out. Perfect by Ed Sheeran featuring toilet sounds when you flush. Perfect by Ed Sheeran featuring wind chimes. Perfect by Ed Sheeran featuring Cardi B animal sounds. Any of those would fall right in line with what you're trying to do, which is just make more money off of a single that somehow became really popular. Because that's all you're doing. When you come out with a new single and then you do the acoustic version, that should be it. Stop the remixes because you're just trying to make more money and it's annoying. And then we talked about Year of the Dog and Lapdog and Dog's Eye View. 2 bands you should check out wherever you can find this music. And I mentioned a lot of other bands, Counting Crows, Toad the Wet Sprocket, Dave Matthews Band. Man, go check all those bands out because blow your mind and take you on a time machine back to when music was pretty dang good. But thanks for watching, Conquistadors. Remember to be a better person tomorrow than you were today because there is always room for improvement. And I'll see you next time on Thursday when we get a tour of my new classroom. I didn't move classes, but we got new desks. Spoiler alert, new desks. You'll get my opinion on those. It's gonna be super exciting. As always, thanks for coming back. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you Thursday. Take care and be good people. Bye. Car driving by. So many cars had to edit so much out. See ya.